This needs to be cleaned. You're gonna clean the bathroom by fucking up the beautiful hand towels?
To begin this essay, let us first speak more broadly of the sign of Libra and its fears and anxieties regarding marriage and relationships. Despite the fact that Libra is the sign of relationships, there's also often great unease and discomfort on the part of the Libra native regarding the same, as they are often weary of having their sense of self be overwhelmed or overshadowed by their partner. The different nakshatras within Libra deal with these fears in different ways, but in this essay we will be exploring the various sentiments and trials that the nakshatra of Vishaka experiences regarding married life. But mostly we will be exploring the inversions of polarity that the Vishaka native experiences with his or her spouse. The focus of this video will be on Vishaka women, as the men represent this differently. What is meant by inversion of polarity? By this we mean the masculine descending into passivity and the feminine erecting into dominance, a changing of the poles. Vishaka women tend to be powerful, charismatic, enigmatic, as well as professionally successful, but at their worst they can be difficult, bad-tempered, and otherwise hard to control. In many of the media depictions we will be exploring in this essay, we see them vying for power and control in their relationships, often even emasculating their husbands as a means of temporarily securing the dominant position in their relationship. Of course, one of the main reasons they perform these emasculations is out of a fear of being overwhelmed by a male force, and so they subconsciously may seek ways of deflating their male counterpart such that they do not take the head. Vishaka women have a difficult relationship to the concept of submission and can sometimes so furiously rebel against it that they may attempt to flip the traditional gender dynamics within a relationship, or at the very least aim to humiliate their male spouse, again emasculating or even cucking them. A relationship is a coming together of two identities, two egos, and the challenge is that of reconciling one with the other. How to create balance between two opposite forces. Oftentimes, instead of it being a proper mixing, the identity of one takes the head and the identity of the other is forced into submission. But even these positions are in constant flux. In these examples, we will see husband and wife go head to head, sometimes trying to balance the power between them, and at other times overtly attempting to dominate the other partner.
Father, be quiet. Gentlemen, forward to the bridal dinner. I see a woman may be made a fool if she had not the spirit to resist.
We of course must open up this essay with a discussion of the film The Taming of the Shrew, starring Vishaka native Elizabeth Taylor. The movie is about a dramatic and difficult woman, too wild and too strong-willed to be tamed by any ordinary man. She displays many unconventional and nonconformist tendencies and is seen as going against many of the expectations of not only women in general, but specifically those of her social standing. But there is one man who seems brave enough to challenge her, and they go head to head. She attempts to overwhelm him, as she does everyone else around her.
Myself am moved to woo thee for my wife.
Moved? Let him that moved you hither remove you hence. I knew you were the first. You were immovable.
Why? What's immovable?
A stool. Like this.
Then sit on me.
Oh, asses are made to bear, and so are you.
Women are made to bear, and so are you.
Not such a load as yours. Me.
Who cringe in fear and give in to her demands, but her usual stormy temperaments seems to have no effect over him. They proceed to wrestle one another, each one vying for dominance. Of course, the male counterpart is played by Vishaka native Richard Burton.
They shall go forward, Kate, at thy command. Obey the bride, you that attend in her. Go to the feast, revel and domineer, carouse full measure to a maidenhead. Be mad and merry, or go hang yourselves. But for my bonny Kate, she must with me. Nay, look not big, nor stamp, nor stare, nor fret. I will be master of what is mine own. She is my goods, my chattels. She is my house, my household stuff, my field, my barn, my horse, my ox, my ass, my anything. And here she stands. Touch her whoever dares. I'll bring mine actions on the proudest he that stops my way in Padua.
In the film Sanctuary, we observe a dynamic where the male partner is a Vishaka native, but through his passivity, he allows and even desires himself to be dominated by his more aggressive partner, who again also enjoys belittling and humiliating him, essentially emasculating him, making him feel smaller and forcing him into a position of submission. We will find that although the Vishaka women tend to be aggressive and dominant, in many of these examples we will explore in this essay, we find that the Vishaka male tends towards more passivity, to such an extent that he makes room for emasculation by his female partner.
Is the counter dirty, Hal?
It's all pretty clean, I think.
Stop. Look at me. You're just too lazy and sloppy to find it. You can start by getting on the floor. Look at you. Barely cast a shadow.
In the example of Sanctuary, we observe a woman who performs dominance even in the way that she slides her chair to sit down, even in her cool commands, and even in her yelling and ferocity. In this video, we will be making reference to a specific story related to a deity associated with Vishaka Nakshatra, and that is Radha. Now, the name Radha is one of the various alternative names given to Vishaka, along with Radhika, which means the same as Radha. And the name Vishaka itself was that of one of the many maids of goddess Radha. In fact, according to many astrologers, the goddess Radha can be seen as an alternative goddess to the nakshatra of Vishaka. And so the personality and stories related to goddess Radha become relevant in understanding this nakshatra better. The main story to be referenced to explain the various interconnected themes of this video is that of the exchanging of clothes performed by Radha and her consort Krishna. Essentially, the story goes as follows. The goddess Radha had grown bored and tired and even frustrated with the gender dynamics of her relationship with Lord Krishna. Krishna would always take on the dominant role of pursuing her and mounting on top of her, forcing her to always assume the passive, submissive position. One day she proposes to her consort that she wishes to alter their sexual dynamics, even just for a little while. Classic paintings illustrate this change in having them exchange clothes, where Krishna would wear the traditional feminine garments of Radha, and where Radha would strip herself down and arm herself with the traditional weaponry sported by the males of their time. In this way, the quote-unquote natural gender roles between them was inverted or subverted. In fact, one interpretation of the story is that Radha was not truly interested in being dominant, but was instead interested in exploring the various facets of her being, which included some tendencies that were traditionally associated with men and masculinity. Although in this story, Lord Krishna was willing to allow himself to be romantically dominated by his consort Radha, what we find with many of the partners of the Vishaka females is that they are totally unwilling to give her any space to become dominant, even for play, lest they be emasculated. In real-life situations, we find that Vishaka women do not wish to occupy the submissive position in their relationships permanently, but instead wish for a constant flux where the polarities are inverted, allowing opportunity for both genders to erect into dominance and recline into passivity. Unfortunately, many male partners suffer from such a fear of being castrated, emasculated, or cucked that to allow space for the feminine to erect over him, even temporarily, is terrifying. Because the Vishaka woman becomes frustrated in her relationships with men who refuse to give her any opportunity to erect, she may often go for men who are more passive than her, or they may be in constant quarrel, constant combat with men who are themselves of a more dominant temperament and are unwilling to give her space to ascend. What we will continue to witness are many situations where both the man and woman in the relationship are vying for the pants of the house. Sometimes this is an open and clear battle where the objective is known, and other times they may pick petty squabbles that on the surface seem meaningless, but that actually serve the purpose of establishing and re-establishing the dominant and submissive dynamics.
Well, you're helping me pack my stuff. I'm helping you remodel your house. You know, I don't know about you, but I always thought there should be a window that was right there.
Of course, we see even more fire, even more drama, and even more power struggles in the example of the Vishaka native Eva Longoria in the series Desperate Housewives, and how she battles head-to-head with her almost equally hot-tempered husband. They match one another's fury in hurling insults, throwing furniture, and otherwise engaging in heated combat as though, once again, trying to establish dominance in the relationship.
Told you, I'm not signing this.
Oh, I think you are. Because if you don't, I will divorce you. I couldn't just let you make a fool out of me.
Stop! Carlos, stop it! Put me down!
Okay.
Put me down! Let me go! Stop! You're hurting me, Carlos!
Sign it. Sign it!
What do you think you're doing?
Please, I can't sleep in the den anymore. I need to sleep in a bed.
Well, then you might want to try a motel because you're not coming back in here.
How many times have I got to say I'm sorry?
Obviously, a few more.
The series Desperate Housewives depicts many relationships between Vishaka natives. One of them is that of the Vishaka native Marcia Cross, who is seen as emasculating her various partners.
Since we're doing true confessions, Carlos and I once broke a waterbed in Cancun.
How'd you manage that?
Oh, he used to have a thing for spiked heels.
I'd just like to make it clear she was wearing them.
Rex cries after he ejaculates.
Once again, her relationship is also filled with many moments of conflicts, many arguments, many squabbles, and these battles serve the purpose of establishing and periodically re-establishing who is the dominant partner and who is the submissive.
You stay here if you want to. I'm leaving.
Rex, if you walk out of this restaurant, I will scream. And just to make sure it really hurts, I will scream about your distasteful sexual habits. You want to know what true humiliation is? You just take one step.
Vishaka Nakshatra, despite existing within Libra, is naturally non-conformist and rebellious. It is common for the natives of this nakshatra to have seasons of their lives where they totally give themselves over to the wilder, more rebellious side of their personality, only to be forced back into the chains of conformity by the retaliatory forces of society. One finds that Vishaka women in the context of marriage often resent and reject what ought to be their traditional wifely roles by wishing to take on more masculine and dominant traits, and depending on the partner, he may either facilitate the fulfillment of these desires or he may himself tie the Vishaka woman with the chains of convention or beat her back down into submission. Given the natural fury that exists within Vishaka, it takes a man of great might to hold her down and put her back into the stereotypical woman's place. But the Vishaka woman is never truly at rest, as this is a very nervous position where anything can give way to rebellion.
I'm gonna get new sheets.
We're not changing the sheets.
Why are you yelling at me?
I am not yelling at you, and this is not about spit up.
Of course it is.
No, it isn't. It's about control. And as you and I both know, you have some issues in this area. You know what? You're not gonna win this one. So you better just crawl back into bed and let's go to sleep.
No! Tom! Come on! No, you come on! Just get out!
Of course, Doug Savant is another Vishaka native of the series, but seen as he is a male, again we find in the examples of this essay how it is the female Vishaka that do the castrating and the male Vishaka that almost enables their own castration. His character finds their relationship frustrating, for although he is too passive to take on a more dominant role in the union, he resents his more assertive spouse's temperaments. They compete head to head, often not just at home, dealing with domestic matters, but also in the workplace.
Participating. Well, you know, your participation was supposed to be limited to making dinner, not making my ideas look bad.
Yeah, well, maybe you need better ideas. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that.
No. We both know that your career was going so much better than mine before we had kids. You never let me forget that.
That is not fair.
You are always competing with me, and judging by tonight, you know what? Still are.
He resents her power over him, and when he sees her rise too much above him, he himself proceeds to humiliate and belittle her that she stumbled back into either a position of submission or one of equal footing.
We're supposed to be equal partners. I just wanted to say.
No, you don't. You want to control the process like you always do. Watch, and you feel that power slipping away, and you can't stand it. You can't stand that I am running the show. 10 years ago, Christmas, we were standing in the scooter aisle at the toy store when I want to choose the twins' big present. You say, Tom, when you start making the money, you can start making the decisions.
You've been sitting on that for a decade?
Wow. Well, guess what? I make the money. Big money, more money than you ever did. So I get to decide how we spend it. This is about how you can't handle my success.
No, you can't handle your success. You've turned into a pompous ass.
Maybe because it's turned you into a raging bitch.
The show Mad Men featured a relationship between the likely Vishaka native Jessica Paré and her male spouse, where for the most part she attempted to assume a more docile, submissive position, but if ever she was really provoked into anger, she challenged her spouse.
You're drunk. And you left work at lunch. Where the hell were you?
You want to get the rolling pin? What the hell?
I want to know where you were. No, I don't.
That's what gets you going.
That is not what this is. Now sit down. You're gonna eat dinner with me.
He, being of a more prideful temperament, refused to ever be truly emasculated and left castrated, so he would do his best to wrestle her and put her down, lest she climb on top of him and claim her place there. The legendary film Gone with the Wind is another example of a strong-willed, independent-minded Vishaka native played by Vivien Leigh, who also goes against the norms and conventions of her time. She does things that proper, well-bred ladies ought to never do, and at one point, she was running her own business and driving all about town on her own, unaccompanied by a male presence.
Going
out to the mill if it's any of your business.
through Shantytown alone? Haven't you been told that it's dangerous to drive alone through all that riffraff?
Don't worry about me. I can shoot straight. I don't have to shoot too far.
Often the other members of her social class would gossip as to how inappropriate her behavior was and how ashamed she should feel for taking up what ought to be exclusively male activities. But she didn't care. Going along with the theme of emasculation of this video, her strong presence was such that, even when she was married, she dominated over her weaker-willed spouse and humiliated him on a regular basis.
But Scarlett, this isn't right and you know it. It's bad enough for a woman to be at business at all, but
What are you complaining about? You never would have owned a mill if I hadn't taken things over. Now go back to the store, Frank, and then go home and take your medicine. You're not looking very well.
But Sugar, don't you think you'd better come home with
Great
me?
balls of fire. Don't bother me anymore, and don't call me Sugar.
Oh, all right.
But throughout all this time, she was also being taunted, nay, challenged by an opposing male force who was never intimidated by her, never deflated by her insults.
Sir, you are no gentleman.
And you, miss, are no lady.
Oh.
Don't think that I hold that against you. Ladies have never held any charm for me.
First you take a low, common advantage of me, then you insult me.
I meant it as a compliment. And I hope to see more of you when you're free of the spell of the elegant Mr. Wilkes. He doesn't strike me as half good enough for a girl of your... what was it? Your passion for living?
But if you... I know my place. It is time you learned yours.
In these various film examples, we witness how Vishaka natives attempt to subvert the dynamic in their relationships, and we will of course continue to explore these themes of dynamic inversions and emasculations, but we need to attempt to further understand the reasons behind this. Vishaka natives, both male and female, relating to their Shakti, which is Vyapana Shakti, the power to achieve many and various fruits, often feel trapped by the restrictions of their gender, as there is much that they wish to achieve that can only be got by going against the many expectations of their gender. The men find much about female society fascinating and resent the restraints put upon men as far as pursuing activities that are classified as exclusively for girls. And likewise, the women often suffer from those same resentments, as they tend to be ambitious and strong-willed, but are pressured by society to only ever assume a more demure, contained form, foregoing career ambitions in favor of family and children. Both the male and female Vishaka native can so deeply resent the limitations that are put on their gender from such a young age that this can even lead to some degree of gender and sexual confusion. So badly do they wish to have these experiences that are denied them, experiences that are only allowed for the opposite gender, that they may even begin to romanticize or otherwise fixate on wishing to become that opposite gender, wanting to dress like the opposite gender, adopt the mannerisms and hobbies of the opposite gender, and even developing a sexual preference for the same sex as a form of completion. It is not uncommon for the Vishaka native or the other Jupiter Nakshatras to go many years of their lives believing that they are gay or queer, only to finally feel fulfilled in whatever they were wanting to achieve within the norms of the opposite gender after many years, and then subconsciously decide to let go of their fixation for becoming the opposite gender, and then they become more correctly polarized. Curiously, Vishaka is also categorized as belonging to the barbarian caste, as they can be so determined to go after their desires that they are willing to rebel or go against every single convention of their society, to the point that they may eventually be rejected by it. It is interesting to consider this dual combination of Vishaka being both a Libra, and so heavily concerned with conforming to society, and yet also barbarian, suggesting an ability to still go against society totally, as well as the pain of isolation and ostracization that comes with being bound to society but failing to meet its expectations. So we can even explore a little bit of how this occurs with the men of Vishaka and Jupiter Nakshatras. Very often, the men of Vishaka may have a fascination for feminine things, like fashion and being colorful and dramatic, but from a very young and impressionable age, it could be heavily communicated to them that such things are strictly for girls. But because they so desire to partake of those same feminine activities, they can then become so fixated on them that they may resent and reject their own bodies and their own genders, and even wish to become the opposite gender.
Get your dick back in here.
Royce, we're the same age. We entered the Navy the same month. And which one of us is wearing more ribbons?
Oh, come on, it's just because I got lucky during the Gulf War.
Yes, thank you. Operational experience is the key to advancement. Yet anyone with tits can't be on a sub, can't be a SEAL, and don't even think about
You want to go off and live with a bunch of cock-swinging commandos for 3 months? Whoa, if you made up your mind to do it, go. Okay, you always do what you want to do anyway. Don't ask my permission. Will I wait if you go off to war? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, something like that.
To begin this conversation, we may start with the movie G.I. Jane, starring the Vishaka native Demi Moore. The movie tells the story of a woman who feels like her gender is used against her, being used to limit her career advancements and ambitions. She takes the opportunity to enroll in an intensive training course as the first woman in history to do so, and she is of course met with much pushback. She receives condescending remarks and is offered patronizing special treatments.
You will find a white step that is mandated female aid, O'Neill. You will find and use them on every barrier obstacle.
Instructor Pyro, I don't want to use any steps.
Keep your mouth shut.
I want to go through like the rest of the guys.
I said shut your fucking hole, O'Neill.
Of course, an iconic moment in the movie is when she decides to shave her hair, essentially letting go of her femininity, as she perceives this to be an obstacle to her goals and ambitions. It is communicated to her both directly and indirectly that her femininity is a handicap in this space, and to advance, she must make this tough choice of letting go of an aspect of her identity. The films Victor and Victoria, both the 1933 and 1982 version, carry Jupiter Nakshatra influences. Famously, it is the Vishaka native Julie Andrews that takes on the lead role in the 80s version. A woman who wishes to advance her acting career comes to the conclusion that by taking on a male identity, she can achieve her goals more easily.
Toddy! You're delirious.
Lower your voice.
Toddy!
Lower.
Toddy!
Oh, Caruso, not Shalyama.
If you don't get back
Oh,
in that
good.
bed.
When you're angry, it drops naturally. Think angry.
Oh.
God, what an inspiration.
I'm gonna get a doctor.
Victoria, it will work.
Oh, Toddy, it
If
will
you
not.
listen to me and do exactly as I say, in 6 weeks you'll be the toast of Paris, and we will both be very rich.
Oh, yes.
Very, very, very rich.
This film too has a makeover scene where she cuts off all her hair to look more masculine. The Punavusu director, Reinhold Schunzel, directed the first ever Victor and Victoria, but he also directed and was overall involved with the next adaptations of his movie, like the French version Georges and Georgette, which of course follows a very similar plotline, as well as the next adaptation of the British kind called First a Girl, starring a Puruva Bhadrapada son native as the lead, Jesse Matthews.
We want to try out for the boys' team. Coach, come on. You know that we're good enough.
What's going on, Coach? Girls here want to try out for the team.
You're not serious.
But girls aren't as fast as boys.
What?
Or as strong, or as athletic.
The film She's the Man was directed by the possibly Vishaka Moon native Andy Fickman, and tells a similar story of a girl that resents the limitations put on her gender by the society around her, and how her ambitions in her favorite sport are cut short because people don't take female soccer seriously. She gets the idea of impersonating her own brother to be able to play the sport in college level. She hides her long hair under a short wig to look more like a boy and tries to develop more masculine qualities to better blend in. The Disney film Motocross tells a similar story of a girl who is overly protected on account of her gender and how her desires to ride motorcycles are denied on the basis of this.
What about me? Why can't I race? Who's joking? I can do it.
I want you to start concentrating on things that a 15-year-old girl should be concentrating on. And that does not include racing motocross.
Dad, you need my help.
No, what I need is a real professional rider.
The movie The Associate, starring Vishaka native Whoopi Goldberg, also features a makeover scene where she transforms herself into a man to impersonate her imaginary business partner, because within her industry, women are not taken seriously.
Miss Ayres, this is the Peabody Club. I'll see if Mr. Fallon wishes to come out.
Women aren't allowed past the lobby.
Oh, really?
Just for the last 150 years or so.
Listen, I'll be honest with you. I thought Laurel Ayres was a firm. You know, two guys. I thought I was meeting a Mr. Laurel and a Mr. Ayres.
Well, you are actually meeting two guys. I mean, I'm not a guy, but my partner is a guy, and there are two of us.
If this is so damned important, where's your partner?
Away.
So all these movies tell a similar story of limitations, barriers, and boundaries placed on Jupiter Nakshatra natives, but specifically in terms of gender, and the ways in which it seems they are forced to defy these expectations in order to further their ambitions. They reference the profound resentment that many such natives experience regarding gender and how they may even sometimes develop a deep dislike of their own birth gender. Vishaka's significations of extreme fixation are seen clearly here, as it is so determined, so focused on conquering whatever it is that it desires, that it is even willing to go against all convention to achieve it, which helps one understand its barbarian caste nature. In my research, I have found a relationship between the popular Chinese character Mulan and Vishaka Nakshatra. Although Vishaka is not the only nakshatra it is associated with, it was strongly related to it. Jumping into the past, we find that one of the very first Western Mulan adaptations starred a Vishaka native as the lead character. In Lady General Hua Mulan, a movie from 1964, we find Ivy Ling Po with Vishaka's son, playing the role of a girl who wishes to take her father's place in the military because he is too ill to fight, but she is commanded to stay home and not go to war on account of her being a girl.
你如果是个男孩子就好了。
Of course, she rejects this and decides to sneak out to war anyway, wearing her father's armor. In another remake, we find that it is a Purva Bhadrapada native, Zhao Wei, who plays the title role. She too taking on the disguise of a man and fearful of being discovered by the rest of her base. Despite her impressive fighting abilities, she understands that her gender would be used against her, as in this film adaptation, a woman in this base would be ordered to death and would earn dishonor for her family. It's interesting that even in the series Once Upon a Time, we find another Vishaka native, Jamie Chung, playing the role of Mulan. It's curious that in the animated version that carries many similar themes to the ones we have explored, the voice actress Ming Na Wen is technically an Anuradha son, according to her birth dates of November 20th. But if she were born just one day earlier, it would put her son right within the bounds of Vishaka. But her ascendance is still not known. Marriage can, in many ways, become that ultimate chain that binds one, both to the expectations of society as well as the needs, wants, and whims of one's partner. For much of human history, the husband was positioned to take on that oppressive role that so dominated over his wife that he denied her anything she wanted. To reiterate the opening ideas of this essay, Libra in general, though desirous of romantic relationships, suffers from various fears regarding the same. Fears of having their individuality swallowed, suppressed, and used as a stool for someone else's dreams and goals and ambitions. Vishaka, of all the nakshatras of Libra, submits itself to marriage the most willingly and the most enthusiastically, and often behave overly accommodating towards their partners until it reaches a breaking point, leaving resentment to fester for having allowed their own needs in the union to go unmet. The film The War of the Roses is one such movie that explores these resentments. It stars the Vishaka ascendant Michael Douglas and was directed by Vishaka's son, Danny DeVito. It tells the story of a marriage where the wife essentially gave up her entire life, her hopes and aspirations, to be a housewife.
Don't get scared. We'll do it together.
I just feel kind of strange. I mean, this house is so beautiful. And we live here. This is who we are? This is me?
She invests all her energies in the home. But when the kids grow up and go off to college, she finds herself without an identity. She decides that she wants to open up her own business, but finds that her own husband is not supportive of her.
Excuse me, you working?
Yes, important.
Yes, kind of. I hope so. Stephanie Mays called to say thank you for dinner the other night.
Yeah?
And she said the pate I made was so good I should think about going into business.
Uh-huh.
So I asked her if she really meant it, and she said she did. So I took a pound over to her and collected $35.
You sold liver to our friends?
Maybe I'm starting a business. But if you don't want me to,
No. You do it. Do it.
Resentments against him begin to fester to such an extent that she looks for random moments to emasculate him, to dominate him, specifically in the context of foreplay and sexual play.
Let me have it. Now I got you. I'm not gonna let you get away. Let me go. Let go.
We see more examples of her resentments when her husband fell ill in one scene, but she decided against going to the hospital to see him because she secretly wished him dead so that she could be free of him.
You're happy because I was dead?
I was happy to be free. Like a weight had been lifted.
Like a weight had been lifted?
Yeah.
She feels trapped in the union, but specifically she feels trapped in the dynamic as the permanent submissive, as her husband is the breadwinner and lords it over her.
I worked my ass off to make enough money to provide you with a good life. And you owe me a reason that makes sense. So let's hear it. Come on. Let's hear it.
Because when I watch you eat When I see you asleep, when I look at you lately, I just want to smash your face in.
Smash my face. Come on. You want to smash my face?
Internally, she nurtures a desire to dominate him as a means of bringing balance to the scales. We find various scenes where she takes to the physical domination of him, from punching him in the face to mounting her car over him, which also serves as a representation of sexually topping him or dominating him. And the movie devolves into a power struggle between the two couples.
You're gonna have to kill me.
I mean it, Oliver.
You don't have the guts. Come on.
The film Fair Play, starring the possibly Vishaka Moon native Phoebe Dynevor, depicts a woman who does not intend on emasculating her spouse, but does indeed wish to grow in personal power. But she competes within the same company as her fiancé. In the beginning, their relationship was more appropriately polarized, where she took on a slightly more submissive position, leaving her male spouse to stand tall in his manhood. But when she is chosen for a promotion that he felt entitled to, the dynamic of the relationship changed.
He's promoting me to PM. I'm taking over for Quinn.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
I'm sorry.
Why? Come on. I'm so happy for you. Okay.
He now feels threatened by his once submissive spouse. Watching her rise, he resents being forced into a lower position than her. He subconsciously interpreted her rising at work as her taking the more masculine, more penetrating role, even within the context of their romantic relationship. There were times when Phoebe's character would attempt to ameliorate matters in the relationship. She, for instance, decided that perhaps the lack of sex within the relationship was contributing to the problem, so she approaches him to correct that error.
You know you have sauce all over your face?
Well, then be a gentleman. Pick it off.
It's late.
Well, then I guess I'll just have to lie here and fuck myself.
Okay. Good night. I was reading that.
You need to fuck.
I want to finish my chapter.
No, too bad.
Emily,
What?
I'm not in the mood.
I don't give a shit.
Come on. Wait. Just stay with me.
Tell me how you want me. Tell me what you want to do. What's wrong? Me.
Now it seemed as though both of them were vying for that position of the most dominant partner. The top, the one who wears the pants.
You stole my fucking job!
No, I fucking didn't.
You said it was me!
It was just a rumor.
How do you know?
Because Campbell told me. He didn't want to promote you. He wanted to fire you because you're the one who's weak.
Emily, admit that's why he gave you the promotion, because he thinks you're hot, because he wants to fuck you. Now, the question is, did you let him? You know, maybe he came on to you and you just didn't know what to do. Or maybe you capitalized by getting on your knees, unzipping his pants, opening your mouth, and sucking his fucking cock. You act like some big fucking swinging dick for what, making the rich richer? You think that makes you a fucking hero? Really? You think you earned your job? It had nothing to do with you. They just needed a fucking woman to look good.
So I got the job because I sucked some dick or because I checked a fucking box?
Both!
No, you don't get it. Why is it so hard to accept that I was doing better?
Show me what you need to. Prove what kind of man you think you are.
But things seem to be improving in the end of one scene after a fight, where to reconcile, the couple had sex in the bathroom of a restaurant. But special note must be made of the sexual position adopted by the couple. This time, it is a sexual position that places the male in the dominant or top position as he strikes her from behind, where she bends over and makes herself small and tiny to facilitate her mounting. It's interesting that earlier in the movie, when they attempted to have sex, he was not excited by the offer because she was the assertive one and she insisted on putting herself on top. But now in this bathroom scene, he finds himself strong, masculine, and erect because he is now taking the dominant position. This movie once again goes to illustrate how the context of sex is used by the Vishaka native as a means of rectifying the scales, as a means of inverting the usual dynamic, the usual polarity within the relationship. If outside of the context of sex, one partner is the more dominant and the other the more submissive, then it may make matters more pleasurable and even offer more fulfillment if within the context of sex, the usually submissive partner rises and takes the dominant position, whereas the usually dominant partner reclines into passivity. But the movie does not end there, as the power struggles continue. In the last fight scene, we witness something interesting. We find that the main character makes use of a knife to finally stab her partner into submission. One could easily interpret the knife in this scene as an aggressive, phallic symbol, representative of her repressed urges to be on top. Urges so denied, force so much to fester in shadow that they mutate into a perverse need to penetrate her partner and place him in the submissive position more permanently.
You sit here, suddenly acting normal, after terrorizing me,
What are you doing?
after cutting me down, day after day. I want you to get on your fucking knees and beg for mercy. Ow! Fuck! Now cry.
What?
Cry! Because if I can't make you cry, I'm gonna make you bleed. Ow!
Fuck!
Cry!
Fuck!
This is of course reminiscent of the scene in the previous example of War of the Roses. In the scene where the wife in the movie mounts over her husband with a larger car, essentially laying her weight over him to show dominance. In the series Desperate Housewives, we find many more examples of emasculations, humiliations, and other instances where the couples vie for power. We have the various legendary fights between the Vishaka Ascendant native Eva Longoria's character versus her husband. Especially early on in the series, we observe various situations where her desires, her needs, her wants were denied, rejected, or ridiculed in favor of the whims of the husband. And her husband was aggressive in his manner of compelling her to do whatever he wanted, whenever she attempted to resist him. But Gabrielle Solis is very much the stereotypical Vishaka Shrew, in the sense that she is rebellious and difficult and routinely challenges her husband's authority. At one point in the series, the wife was the breadwinner, owing to the fact that the husband was on house arrest, yet he still attempted to secure his position as head of the household. She, of course, rejected his authority and challenged it.
Look around, Gabrielle. It's already dead. There's nothing you can control.
Maybe. But having a baby? That I can control. You I can control.
Hey, you can't talk to me like that. I'm still the man of this house.
Oh, really? The man of the house?
Don't walk away from me. Hey, my food? Gabrielle, come back here right now. Hey.
I wouldn't go too much farther. You're gonna end up back in prison. You're the man of the house? You can't even leave it.
Again, also in the series we have the example of Marsha Cross, Vishaka Moon, who much more successfully emasculates her partners than many of the other examples here shown. She does this with her first husband, but also with her second husband as well. She performs these emasculations, these castrations so successfully that they come so naturally that even others around her take note and it makes them uncomfortable.
Yes! It's gonna be here tomorrow. Soon, I, the grill master, will christen a brand new barbecue.
You seem pretty excited about a grill.
Orson is a horrible negotiator. He's never met a sticker price he didn't like.
No, Bree, that...
It's true.
Look out, cattle!
You think you're excited, just imagine the salesman who overcharged you.
Bree, I got a very good deal.
He only thinks he got a good deal because the salesman threw in one of those kiss the cook hats. True. There's a reason the local car dealer sends you a fruit basket every Christmas. Now, hush.
It's just, when you talk to your husband that way, my mom used to do that, and it drove my dad away. I think he was tired of being emasculated.
Later in the series, she starts her own company and in so doing, begins to assume more of what is traditionally thought of as the man's role in the relationship, as she is the primary breadwinner. But her career success threatens the ego of her second husband, whose manhood is so threatened by her success that he eventually begs her to sell her own company to facilitate her assuming of a more submissive position in the relationship.
I must say, Bree, I was surprised to get your call. You've always said you'd never sell your company.
Bree's decided she wants more family time. She's a very traditional woman, you know? It's one of the reasons I fell in love with her. And yes, her sole ambition now is to be Mrs. Orson Hodge. And at the risk of sounding selfish, I'm glad I'll be the only one she's cooking for. I'll show you the offices before we start the demolition.
You're getting rid of your office?
Yeah, we don't need it anymore. And Bree knows I've always wanted a game room. Do it.
Orson, think about how I built this company from nothing. How it brings me joy and pride and a sense of accomplishment. Is that really something you want me to give up?
Yes.
One of the most marking moments is when her husband becomes handicapped and is incapable of performing many common activities on his own. And so in many ways, he already feels emasculated, independent of any additional effort on her part. But she goes an extra step and takes him to the front yard where all their neighbors can see them and begins to hose him down. It's interesting again how one can interpret the hose in this context as a phallic symbol, and as she sprays him, she essentially beats him down into a humiliated state of submission. The hose in this context, very much like the knife in the previous example of fair play, and of course like the truck in the example of the War of the Roses, may all be seen as phallic representations. The character of Marcia Cross is also noted for her love of guns, which is interesting, as this may also be seen as another form of phallic completion, as guns may satisfy her desire to feel dominance. And actually, also in the movie Sanctuary, we witness a scene that is very much an example of the feminine gaining a phallus, or erecting over her partner, when the female partner is tied up and seems to have been subdued into submission. She gains strength and breaks free from her trap and symbolically makes use of the bedpole as her phallic instrument, a show of her strength and power. There are various scenes in movies and television shows where either the Vishaka female performs subtle acts of humiliations to put her partner down into a submissive position, or the Vishaka male allows himself to be emasculated. Scenes like in The Wolf of Wall Street, when the Vishaka native Leonardo DiCaprio is humiliated with assaults of glasses of water. It's interesting that a Vishaka woman, Hedy Lamarr, was cast as Delilah in the movie Samson and Delilah, and the character Samson was played by Vishaka Moon native Victor Mature. And of course, this movie tells the story of a man who was essentially castrated by his female Vishaka love interests.
Your power is in your hair. What a beautiful power it is. Look how it curls around my finger. Black as a raven's wing, and wild as a storm. Shall I pull it out and steal your power?
We find another interesting case of a castration or a humiliation taking place in the series The Curse, starring Vishaka native Emma Stone, where instead of having sex with her husband, she has her husband use a vibrator on her because her husband's penis is too small.
Steven, can I join too?
He says not yet.
Can you ask Steven if I can watch?
He says that you can listen, but he doesn't want to see your face.
Okay. I'm looking away. Tell him I'm looking away.
Essentially cucking him and non-verbally categorizing him as weak and impotent. Of course, in the series Desperate Housewives, we have Vishaka native Doug Savant, who feels routinely emasculated by his own wife as well.
Okay, you lick. I'm going to Paris.
You're not taking my job. Now, we haven't talked compensation package yet, but I got a good feeling.
You know, Tom, you're right. Bruce does care about this job. That's why he wants to make sure he gets the perfect person for it.
Well, Lynette, you yourself said I was the best.
Oh, you were. You were the best person who ever worked for me. Used to be his boss. Yes, Tom was very good at his job, right up until he got fired.
Well, actually, I was relieved to get fired. My boss is kind of a ball buster. Oops, she's right here. She'll regret.
Well, we've all had our troubles as bosses, haven't we, Tom? I was sort of sugarcoating it when I said his restaurant was very successful. The truth is, he mismanaged that pizza joint right into the ground.
Let me be very clear. I think Lynette is fantastic. She is a great manager. She's got terrific people skills and is very reliable. As long as the cancer doesn't flare up again.
So it's interesting that in many media examples, we see a corrupted expression of these inversions of roles, these inversions of polarities that occurs between Radha and Krishna, where instead of it being a pleasurable experience for both parties, it is used as a covert strategy by women to rectify the scales that were previously set against her.
See you for years.
I try to keep your clothes on, too. There aren't many more sickening sights in this world than you with a couple of drinks and you with your skirt up over your head.
A zero.
Your heads, I should say.
Party, party.
I'm really looking forward to this, Martha.
Don't answer the door.
You answer it.
Get to that door, you.
To you.
Come on in. I said get over there and answer that door.
All right, love. Whatever love wants.
The movie Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf is another one about power struggles between a couple, but also about the various resentments within the union. And the main characters are played by Vishaka natives Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, and was directed by the Vishaka Sun native Mike Nichols. Throughout the movie, we witness this couple, each taking their turn to deflate, humiliate, and put down the other.
Stop it, Martha.
Like hell I will. You see, George didn't have much push. He wasn't particularly aggressive. In fact, he was sort of a flop. A great, big, fat flop.
Stop it, Martha.
I hope that was an empty bottle, George. You can't afford to waste good liquor. Not on your salary, not on an associate professor's salary. So here I am, stuck with this flop, this bog in the history department, who's married to the president's daughter, who's expected to be somebody, not just a nobody, a book.
It's quite comical, actually, that even in this movie, we find a scene where the more submissive spouse, who feels castrated and denied the opportunity to be on top, feels that in order to balance the scales, he requires a phallic tool of awesome proportions to essentially beat his partner into a submissive state, to allow himself more freedom. But what is also interesting in the movie is that this gun that the husband pulls out is a toy gun, and doesn't really have any real ammunition. One could argue that it serves as a metaphor for the husband's own powerlessness, how he may sometimes make grand threats but cannot actually follow through. His toy gun represents his impotence, his state of castration. In the series Mad Men, we have various power struggles between the Purva Bhadrapada native John Hamm and the Vishaka native Jessica Paré. In the series, Jessica Paré aspires towards an acting career, but her husband resents this because he wishes to keep her in her tamed, subdued, submissive states, and is fearful of the autonomy and independence that a full career would offer her.
Well, you get to disappear for work whenever you want.
And if I have to choose between you and that, I'll choose you. But I'll hate you for it.
You know I don't want you to fail.
Good. Because I'm not going to. I'm sick of tiptoeing around you every time something good happens to me. This is my job. No, my career.
You kiss people for money. You know who does that?
The Vishaka female brand of feminine strength is often rejected by society, and it provokes great fear, again, because it is perceived as the feminine attempting to usurp the supposedly rightful place of the masculine, forcing him to fall into an emasculation. And in various media examples, we find these taming of the shrew attempts, where either the society around the Vishaka female, or especially the spouse of the Vishaka female, attempts to force her into a quote-unquote woman's place through various means. Like, for example, we find many examples where the Vishaka female is pressured into getting pregnant so that she is too weighed down by children to ever find the strength to rebel and go after her ambitions.
So you shop a lot, huh?
Yeah, so?
Most women that shop a lot is because they don't have anything better to do.
What's your point?
Well, if you had children...
Here we go.
I'm just saying that children give your life a purpose. You get so busy taking care of them that you don't have any time to wonder if you're happy.
You know, and for the record, I am not one of those women who has a hole in her heart that can only be filled by a baby. I like my life a lot. It's very fulfilling.
Excuse my daughter-in-law, she's very fulfilled.
Yes, Gabrielle Solis knew without a doubt she didn't want to be a mother. But what she couldn't know was just how much her husband wanted to be a father. Or that he'd been tampering with her birth control for months.
Vishaka does possess that tendency to go against society and becoming totally nonconformist, but situations like that of having children make going against society far less convenient, for one requires the assistance of the collective to help in raising and caring for children. In many of these movie examples, we get a glimpse of the tiger yoni's sexual nature, the aggression of their sexual play, and specifically the aggression and the anger and the dominance of the women of the tiger yoni within the context of sex.
Get your dick back in here.
I'm cleaning up.
Really?
Stop looking at me. You aren't allowed to look at me.
Then put some clothes on.
I said stop it. You don't deserve it. You're too old. I don't need an old person. You probably couldn't do it anyway. Don't. You don't get to have this. Go sit over there. All you get to do is watch.
Get up.
No. I don't want people to think you're getting this.
You want it so badly.
I don't want it. I don't want you. You're drunk. And you left work at lunch. Where the hell were you?
You want to get the rolling pin? What the hell?
I want to know where you were.
You like to get mad.
No, I don't.
That's what gets you going.
That is not what this is. Now sit down. You're gonna eat dinner with me.
One more thing. If you ever hurt me again, I will kill you.
If you ever leave me for another man, I'll kill you.
Boy, with all this passion, isn't it a shame that we're not having sex?
Oh, yes. Oh. Oh, God! Oh, gee, I miss it. Oh, God! Oh! Oh!
Was it as good for you as it was for me?
And you know something else, Daddy? Mommy is just so sick and tired of wearing panties. So take a good look, Daddy. You're gonna be seeing an awful lot of this around the house.
Oh, baby. Yeah, Mommy.
But no touching.
Put your elbows on the desk. Bend over. Get your face close to the letter and read it aloud.
Dear Mr. Garvey, I'm grateful to you for referring.
Try sometimes to deliberately drive Mike mad. And I loved it when he then would lose his temper and dominate me. And I'd start to purr in silence because he had won and I hadn't.
Well, what sort of things would you do?
Oh, be late. Just fiddle around and be late. I suppose it was like testing my strength. Each time hoping and praying that I would lose.
That's really very important to you, isn't that? The strength.
Oh, I need it. I need that quality in a man more than any other quality. Because, I know myself. And I know that I will try and get away with murder.
Again, there are not too many opportunities within the external world for women to pleasurably dominate over a man. And for the Vishaka female who may suffer from many resentments against the male gender and its imperial and tyrannical tendencies, the context of sex may provide for her a safe place to attempt to invert the polarities between them, as did Radha in her exchange of roles with Krishna. But in general, both the men and the women of the tiger yoni, and even the lion yonis, but specifically the Jupiter nakshatras, love aggression and brutality within the safe, agreed-upon context of sexual play. These nakshatras are often so tamed within the outside world and try their best to be genteel and self-controlled and civilized that they repress many of their base animalistic tendencies. These tendencies, if not given a proper outlet, may fester and spill out in less auspicious ways. Vishaka resents the conformity it is forced to subject itself to in order to gain advantages in the external world, and so loves the fantasy of sexual play, where they get to explore every nonconformist tendency which would, outside of this context, bring them shame. To learn more about the sexual and romantic nature of Vishaka Nakshatra, the tiger yonis, as well as the other 27 nakshatras, please consider supporting me by purchasing my first ever astrology book, the second edition, with corrections to the first. I am so very thankful to all those who have already made this purchase. This book goes more into detail into the yoni animals as well, discussing their symbolism and their sexual nature. The tiger yoni very much enjoys a clear dominant and submissive, a clear top and a clear bottom regarding sexual play. Being in romantic relationships with Jupiter nakshatras can be very exciting for Martian individuals, whether Martian signs or Martian nakshatras, or even very controlling individuals generally, because Martians love the feeling of controlling and taming another human being, but they don't like those who are too easily tamed and domesticated, and they also don't like those who are completely resistant and unaffected by them. What Martians really enjoy are individuals who are never really steady in this regard, oscillating back and forth between falling under their control for a time but then quickly rebelling against them. This is exciting, for it repeatedly offers them the thrill of wrangling their spouse again and again, and so even sexually the dynamic is exciting. Martian nakshatras especially suffer from boredom, which is often why in Chitra this may result in chaotic behavior for the sake of causing commotion and having something exciting to do. A favorite sexual position of Vishaka and Purva Bhadrapada women, for example, is sitting on top, or better yet, presenting themselves as initially passive during sexual play, only to all of a sudden switch the positions between itself and its partner, that she assumes the risen position while he reclines to passivity. One finds that Vishaka women also enjoy initiating sexual acts and are often the most sexually forward. One finds that Vishaka women often enjoy and excel at dancing, particularly of the seductive variety, and in some ways dancing is a more dominant, yet still feminine way for women to assert themselves sexually on men, as it puts the men in the passive position of viewing the woman as she thrusts herself onto him. Vishaka women who get off on the play of dominance and inversions of polarity can oscillate between not being very sexually active or sexually motivated, or actually being very sexually voracious. But the problem with the activated and voracious sexuality of the Vishaka woman is that it can be so powerful, so carnal, that even through sex, they may still somehow manage to emasculate their partner, as they can seem so strong, so energetic, so confident in their sexuality that they may inspire within their male partner the feeling that they cannot be dominated. In fact, they can intimidate their partner, as their male partner may strangely get the sense that the Vishaka woman may somehow dominate him and put him in the submissive position. In fact, they can easily intimidate their partner sexually. One thing that makes sex enjoyable for many heterosexual males is how affirming it is of their own manhood. To see a small, dainty, timid woman be so overwhelmed by his own might and power. But if the female partner is instead confident, dynamic, and forceful, it can be somewhat intimidating for many men, as they fear that instead of being affirmed of their manhood, they may actually be robbed of it. And again, this is interesting in consideration of the reversal of roles performed by Radha and Krishna. So to add a few more examples of the Vishaka woman emasculating, castrating, or cucking their partners, we would have to also speak of infidelity, which is a running theme with Jupiter Nakshatras. Now, the reasons for infidelity are sometimes as a means of humiliating the spouse, as the male spouse can be seen as an oppressive force in the union, and so as another means of robbing the male spouse of his manhood, she may choose to have herself be taken by another man.
Carlos just got a little rough. They need to sign some papers.
He hurt you? We're not gonna let him get away with this.
Look, you really want to get back at him? Then kiss me.
How's that gonna help?
Because one day when the time is right, I'm gonna tell him how he drove me right into your arms. And that's gonna kill him.
You still look like you have a pretty good body now, too. Is that right? Have you?
Martha, decency forbids.
Shut up. Is that right? Have you kept your body?
It's still pretty good. I work out.
Do you? That's very nice.
Well, you never know. You know, once you have it.
You never know when it's going to come in handy.
Martha, your obscenity is beyond
George here doesn't cotton too much to body talk. Paunchy here isn't too happy when the conversation moves to muscle.
Wow. Look at you. You going out?
Not that it's any of your business, but, I have a date.
A date? What kind of date?
Rex, I don't want to say anything that might upset you. The doctor says any undue stress could cause another heart attack. It's a romantic date with a single attractive man, and I intend to French the hell out of him.
Because they are not sincerely conventional nor traditional, they also do not suffer the transgressions of their marriage as forgivingly as other more traditional nakshatras, whereas it is often expected within society that wives suffer the transgressions of their husbands, most notably cheating. Because Jupiter women deep down reject all conventions, they are the ones most likely to retaliate in a big way against their spouses, even if they choose to continue within the union. They are the types to develop philosophies in the vein of, if your husband cheats, cheat back. They are very inclined to breaking plates and even in more extreme cases, starting fires and just otherwise reacting in very extreme ways. Now that we are nearing the end of this video, I would like to discuss a case in which the Vishaka woman is totally tamed by her male partner, her wildness, her savagery, her autonomy beaten out of her, resulting in a seemingly calm and placid woman who is totally submitted to her husband. We find the Vishaka native Elizabeth Taylor in a struggle against Vishaka native Richard Burton. He especially enjoys exercising his dominance over her anytime he senses she resists him.
A walnut shell, a knack, a toy, a trick, a baby's cap. Away with it, come. Let me see a bigger.
I'll have no bigger. This doth fit the time, and gentle women wear such caps as these.
When you are gentler, you shall have one too, and not before.
My tongue will tell the anger of my heart, or else my heart concealing it will break.
I love thee well, and that thou likest it not.
Love me or love me not, I like the cap, and it I will have, or I will have none.
Her husband seems to like to play games with her, as he would oftentimes say things that were factually untrue, only to observe if she would dare contradict him, dare humiliate him, and if she took the bait, he would proceed once again to cut her off by the knees, lest she rise high enough to threaten his authority.
What is o'clock?
'Tis day.
'Tis night.
'Tis 7.
'Tis 2 at most.
It shall be 7, or I will not ride. Look, what I speak, or do, or think to do, you are still crossing of it. Nay, let it alone. I will not go today, or ere I do, it shall be what o'clock I say it is.
'Tis 7.
He takes such pride in putting her in a submissive position, and is so assured of his having done so that he even wagers against other men of his stature, whose wife is the most submissive.
I say no, and therefore for assurance let's each one send unto his wife, and he whose wife is most obedient, to come the moment he doth send for her, shall win the wager which we will propose. Content!
Naturally, no one believes that he will win this wager, as his Vishaka wife earned herself a reputation for being a shrew before marrying him.
Sirrah! Sirrah! Biondello, go and entreat my wife to come to me forthwith.
Oh, entreat her. Aye, then she needs must come.
I'm afraid, sir, do what you can. Yours will not be entreated. Where is my wife?
She will not come. She bids you come to her.
Of course, it surprises everyone to witness that he won the wager. It surprises everyone to witness just how beaten into submission has been his once wild and untamable spouse, that now she is so responsive to his command, nay, so subservient to the concept of husband as lord, that it does not suffice that she submit to him, but she makes careful use of her strength to force all the other women to submit to their husbands, the very ones that had previously humiliated them by openly displaying their lack of power over them.
Grumio, go to thy mistress. Say I command her to come to me.
I know her answer.
What?
She will not come.
Fie! Unknit that threatening, unkind brow, and dart not scornful glances from those eyes to wound thy lord, thy king, thy governor. It blots thy beauty as frost to bite the meads. Thy husband is thy lord, thy life, thy keeper, thy head, thy sovereign, one that cares for thee. He craves no other tribute at thy hands but love, fair looks, and true obedience. Too little payment for so great a debt. And when she is froward, peevish, sullen, sour, and not obedient to his honest will, what is she but a foul, contending rebel and graceless traitor to her loving lord?
To add another movie to the Vishaka power struggles, we have the movie Marriage Story, starring two Vishaka natives, Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver, as a couple getting divorced. It explores the various ways in which the wife in this scenario gave herself up and essentially made herself into a stool for her husband to stand on. How her desires and even identity were swallowed in the union.
And I didn't belong to myself. And it was small stuff, stupid stuff, and big stuff. All the furniture in our house, it was his taste.
I didn't even know what my taste was anymore because I had never been asked to use it. I didn't even pick our apartment. I just moved into his. And I made noises about wanting to move back to LA, but they came to nothing. You know, I just watched that documentary on George Harrison, and I thought, own it. Just own it. Be like George Harrison's wife. Being a wife and a mother, that's enough. Yeah, then I realized I couldn't remember her name. So,
Dennis and I will talk to your agent about it.
at our theater, I always wanted to direct, and then Charlie would say something like, the next one, but he was always the director, so there never was a next one. I don't know. Maybe if we'd stayed married, there would have been.
We're gonna kill him off.
The movie explores the various ways in which they come to resent one another by the end.
I felt repulsed when you touched me.
You're a slob. I made all the beds, clothes on the cabinets, took care of you like an
Makes me
infant.
want to peel my skin off.
You'll never be happy. In LA or anywhere. You think you found some better opposite guy than me, and in a few years, you rebel against him because you need to have your voice. But you don't want a voice. You just want to fucking complain about not having a life with you was joyless.
So then you had to go and fuck someone else?
You shouldn't be upset that I fucked her. You should be upset that I had a laugh with her.
Do you love her?
No, but she didn't hate me. You hated me.
You hated me. You fucked somebody we worked with.
You stopped having sex with me in the last year. I never cheated on you.
That was cheating on me.
So to end this essay, we must have a conversation of the ideal marriage situation for the Vishaka female. We have already seen that a marriage situation where her partner exercises extreme dominance over her does not work, as she feels oppressed, her desires are denied her, and she nurses resentments against him. But a relationship with an extremely passive spouse also does not work, as it establishes a mother-son dynamic between the Vishaka woman and her partner. In this situation, her partner has no masculinity, leaving the Vishaka woman to assume more of the masculine principle for most of the relationship, which again is deeply unsatisfying. The Vishaka woman requires a relationship with a man who is masculine, who assumes fully his masculine role, but who understands the nature of masculinity enough to know that he need not assert himself on her in the prescribed way of society. She wishes for a man that is masculine, but one that uses his masculinity to raise her up as well, and not to beat her into a lowly, tamed, and submissive state. To use an analogy, she wishes that a man uses his masculinity as a rising pillar on top of which she places herself, and not use his masculinity as a rod to beat her into smallness. So she wishes for a powerful man who also uses his power to assist her in her ambitions without ever being threatened by her power. She also wishes for a man who makes use of his masculinity like a wall that protects her against the external forces of society so that she can develop herself however way she wishes, even if it goes against the norms of society. In the end of the series Desperate Housewives, we witness something beautiful. Many of the same Vishaka relationships that were tumultuous in the beginning have found their way towards balance, where the female is not castrated of her power and neither is the male castrated of his power, but instead the masculine principle makes use of his power to support, uplift, and protect the feminine principle in the gain of her power within the world. All this without ever feeling threatened by her. We see, for example, the Vishaka native Eva Longoria in her character as Gabrielle Solis, who finally decides to open up her own business, and her husband supports her fully by helping her set up a website and otherwise assisting her in the development of her company.
This was after Carlos helped her develop a personal shopping website, which led to Gabrielle getting her own show on the Home Shopping Network. They soon bought a mansion in California, where they argued happily ever after.
We find the Vishaka native Marsha Cross in her character of Bree Vandekamp not only being supported but encouraged into greatness, owing to her partner as well.
2 years later, Bree and her new husband left Fairview. They moved to Louisville, where Bree joined a club for conservative women. Tripp then encouraged her to enter into local politics. The following November, Bree was elected to the Kentucky State Legislature.
Man is very passionate, just like his father. My first husband, he's very handsome, but too crazy. It seemed like all we did was fight and make love, fight and make love, fight and make love. One time, I'm not kidding you, we fell out the window together.
Which one were you doing? I'm hearing this for the first time.
Tell me the truth, Jay. Did you put the key in my bag?
No.
I won't be mad.
In order to prove a point, I may have... Why did I get you such a big watch?
Why, Jay? What point do you have to prove?
I'm trying to teach you to be organized. Your mind is scattered, Gloria.
Your mind is gonna be scattered. Manny, hand me the gun.
Time.
I am not mad at you because you told me that I snore. I am mad at you because you didn't say anything.
Because I didn't want to get yelled at.
Well, too bad. When you're married to me, you're going to get yelled at many times. You're tough enough to take it. That's what I love about our marriage. We can say whatever we want, but the next day we're still there.
That's what I like about it, too. What am I going to say? You couldn't forgive me.
There are things, Jay.